Hey, it's Yayforyarn, and today I'm going to show you how to crochet the daisy tee. So before we get started, I just want to let you know that the yarn for this project was provided by Knit Picks. So thanks Knit Picks for providing yarn for this pattern design. So the first thing you'll need for this project is the written pattern. So once you have the written pattern, then it's time to choose a size. This pattern comes in 9 sizes from a women's extra small to a 5X. Now this tee has kind of an oversized loose fit, and that's just the style of it. But you'll want to go ahead and choose a size based on the wearer's bust measurement. And once you have selected a size, then you can move on to choosing your yarn. Now you'll want to use a fingering weight, sock weight, whatever you want to call it, but a number 1 super fine yarn. Now I am using Knit Picks Hawthorne fingering, and this is a very sturdy, it's soft and pliable, but it's a very sturdy fingering weight yarn. So this one is not going to have as many issues with pilling or things like that because it is a very high twist yarn. So the strand is very smooth with no fuzz. It's actually kind of rope-like in the sense that it does not have any real fluff to it. It's soft still, but it is kind of a more dense, tight twist, and that is a good quality to look for in a yarn when you're doing a summer project. Of course, this is pretty lightweight, so if you do want to use a different kind of yarn, as far as the spin and the texture of it, that's okay, as long as it is a number 1 super fine yarn. Now, I have already wound these into cakes because this yarn comes in a hank or a twisted skein where it's just like a great big loop, and you have to untwist it and wind it yourself. I've already done this on my yarn winder, and if you don't know how to do that, I have a video on that which I will link down below. But here's some more info on the yarn. This colorway is called Compass Kettle Dye, and this is 357 yards or 100 grams per skein. Now this yarn is 80% superwash fine Highland wool, and you don't typically see wool used in summer projects, but wool is a temperature regulating yarn, so it can keep you warm, of course, in the winter, but that doesn't mean that it's automatically going to be hot for the summer. So part of what makes this project summer friendly is, first of all, the fact that we're using a thin yarn that's smooth with no fuzz, and the fact that it is going to be kind of lacy and open and breathable. So point being, do not shy away from this yarn just because it has wool in it, because that doesn't automatically mean that it's going to keep you warm. So if you want to use this particular yarn, then you can go ahead and shop this yarn at the link in the description, which I will leave down below. But I'm going to be using the Compass colorway, which is this beautiful bright yellow. So besides yarn, of course, there are a few other things you're going to need for this project. First of all, you're going to need a crochet hook. This is a Furls Crochet size F. Okay, now make sure that you choose the crochet hook size that will get you the gauge for the pattern. So please, please, please do not skip the gauge swatch. It is necessary and important to make sure that your piece will turn out the right size, to make sure that it will fit correctly, and to make sure that it won't cause you to run out of yarn because your gauge is off. So please check your gauge. There is information on that in the pattern. There's even a pattern for the gauge swatch, so don't skip that step. It is very important. But you'll want to choose the hook size that gives you the correct gauge for the pattern. And a few other things you're going to need are a measuring tape, a yarn needle or blunt tapestry needle of some sort. I like the metal ones with a bent tip, but that's just my personal preference. And you'll need some scissors. Now, stitch markers are optional. However, if you are wanting to make counting your stitch pattern repeats a little easier, then you can always clip a stitch marker to the edge of your work every time you finish a repeat to mark where the last row of each repeat is, if you want to make it a little easier to count how many repeats you've worked so far. So now that we have all of our supplies, then we can get started with the crocheting. Alright, so now we're ready to begin crocheting our tee. So this T is made of two pieces, one for the front and one for the back. And they're both exactly the same. So what we're going to do is make the front and back panel 2 times so that we have one for the front and one for the back. And what we're going to be doing is seaming them together later. So because we're going to be seaming them together later and we don't want to weave in any more ends than necessary, we're going to go ahead and leave a tail about 1 yard long before beginning. So I'm going to leave my tail 1 yard long, make my slip knot, and then I just like to kind of roll up the yarn tail and get it out of the way so that it's not just dangling as we're working. Alright, so there's my yarn tail for seaming. Alright, so the slip knot was my marker, and I'm going to go ahead and begin by chaining 3 because this project begins not with a foundation chain but with a row of foundation double crochet. Now of course the option is there in the pattern to use a regular foundation chain and a row of double crochet if you want, but I highly recommend doing the foundation double crochet as your foundation row. And this is because it's the equivalent of making the foundation chain and the first row of double crochet at the same time. It makes the foundation edge much stretchier, and I just prefer the look of it because I feel like it's neater, and of course I really like the stretch aspect of it. So like I said, you can follow the instructions for a regular foundation chain and row of regular double crochet if you really want to, but I definitely recommend doing the foundation double crochet. And I will go ahead and link my other video on foundation double crochet in the description box down below because that does give a more in-depth tutorial. So first that I've chained 3, now I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook into the first chain that I made, yarn over, pull up a loop. So far this is just like a regular double crochet, but we're going to add one more step. So to make this a foundation double crochet, I'm going to yarn over, pull through 1 loop. That makes the chain underneath the stitch. Then I'm going to yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and yarn over, pull through 2 loops. So when I go ahead and tug on my yarn tail there, you can kind of see how that we've made a chain stitch that sits underneath the double crochet. So that is the first foundation double crochet. All of the following stitches are going to be worked into the base of the previous one. So I'm going to again yarn over, but instead of inserting my hook into the chain, I'm going to be inserting my hook into the what appears to be a chain stitch that's sitting underneath the double crochet. So if we turn that foundation edge down here upside down so we can see the top of it, it looks kind of like the top of a regular stitch, and there are 2 strands of yarn, a front strand and a back strand. And we're going to insert under both of those strands of yarn at the base of the previous stitch. So now we can yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1 loop, there's the chain, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. So we've again created a chain stitch underneath our double crochet. Again, yarn over, insert the hook into both strands of the base of the previous stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1 loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. And that is the beginning of our foundation double crochet edge. And like I said, if you want a more in-depth tutorial on that, I will link my video on that stitch down below. But I'm going to work the total number of foundation double crochet needed for the size that I'm making. So I'm going to be making the extra small, but as always, whichever size you're making, there are 9 sizes in the pattern, you'll want to follow the instructions for whichever size you're making. So make the number of total foundation double crochet stitches needed for whichever size you're making, and that is row 1. So I'm going to go ahead and for the size that I'm making, work a total of 98 foundation double crochet. Alright, so I have now finished my row 1, or the row of foundation double crochet, and of course you'll want to double check and make sure you have the correct number of stitches for whichever size you're making. So now we're ready to move on to row 2. So for row 2, we're going to begin with something called a chainless starting double crochet. Now if you're not familiar with this stitch, I will go ahead and link my video on chainless starting stitches down below. But the chainless starting double crochet is a way of working the equivalent of a starting chain at the beginning of a row to get up to the height you need for your row. but we make it look like a double crochet. So I'm just going to give a brief demonstration of this stitch, but if you want more info, then go ahead and check out my video on chainless starting stitches that I will link below. But to work this stitch, first I'm going to turn the work because this is a new row. And I'm going to stretch the loop on my hook until it is just about the same height or slightly taller than a regular double crochet stitch. So now I'm going to go ahead and take my index finger and place it on the back of that loop so that it doesn't move around. And then I'm going to do a kind of the equivalent of a yarn over with that stretched out loop. So instead of yarning over here, I'm going to yarn over like this, but still holding on to that stretched out loop with my index finger. Then I can insert my hook into the same stitch the loop was coming from, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. So there is my chainless starting double crochet. And like I said, if you want more info on that, I have a video dedicated to chainless starting stitches that you can go check out. So now that I've worked my chainless starting double crochet in the same stitch, I'm going to double crochet in the next 5 stitches. And now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and start working the repeating sequence for this row. So for this row, our sequence is to chain 3, then we're going to skip 2 stitches down here in the previous row. We're going to skip 2 and double crochet in the next 12. And that is the repeating sequence for this row. So we're going to continue repeating the chain 3, skip 2, double crochet in the next 12 until 8 stitches are left in the row below. Alright, I have those 8 stitches left in my row. So to finish out the row, I'm going to chain 3, skip 2, and then double crochet in the last 6 stitches. And by the way, we are not working a double crochet in the top of the chains from the beginning of our row of foundation double crochet. So that is what row 2 looks like. We have an evenly spaced row of chain spaces here. And what I would like for you to keep in mind is that your stitch count is going to fluctuate throughout this stitch pattern. As we progress through the rows, the stitch count will change from row to row at times. So you'll definitely want to check each row before starting the next row just to make sure that you have everything working out correctly and you have the right number of stitches for the row that you're working on, so that then when you get to the next row or the following row, then you won't have a problem with the stitch count or not having the right things line up in the right places. So another thing to keep in mind with row 2 is that this is the first row in the stitch pattern. And when we've just worked this for the first time, we worked it into a row of plain double crochet. So there's nothing else going on in row 1 except for double crochet. So when we work row 2 into that, that's all there is. There's no chain spaces or anything in row 1 to work with when we're working row 2 into row 1. However, when you are instructed to repeat row 2 in the instructions, when we have finished the stitch pattern and then we're going to start over again and repeat those instructions, then when you repeat row 2, you're going to be working into row 11, which does have some chain spaces in it. So when you're repeating row 2 and the pattern says to double crochet in the next 12 stitches right here, you're going to be working across a span of stitches that has a chain 2 space in it. So you can choose when you're repeating row 2 on the following repeats to either double crochet in each individual chain stitch from the row below, or you can work 2 double crochet stitches into the chain 2 space. That's a personal choice thing. You can do whichever of those that you'd like, but the important thing is that when we work row 2 into row 11, when we repeat these instructions again for the stitch pattern, we just don't want to get confused. So when we repeat row 2 to begin the stitch pattern again, we're going to be working into row 11, which has chain spaces in it. So you'll just want to keep in mind, how you'd like to deal with those, whether you'd like to put 2 double crochet in the chain 2 space, or whether you'd like to double crochet in each of the individual chain stitches in the chain 2 space. So I will kind of demonstrate that when we get there, but I just want to give you a heads up ahead of time so you know that when we go to repeat these instructions. So now we're ready to move on to row 3. So for row 3, we're going to turn the work, and we're going to work a chainless starting double crochet in the same stitch. So again, I've got my loop stretched out. I'm going to hold on to it with my index finger, yarn over with the stretched out loop, insert my hook into the same stitch the loop is coming from, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. And now that we've done that, we're going to double crochet in the next 3 stitches. And now we're going to begin our repeating sequence for this row. So for this row, we're going to chain 3. We're going to skip the next 2 double crochet, and we're going to single crochet in the chain space, like so. Now we're going to chain 3, skip the next 2 double crochet, and double crochet in the next 8 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So that is our repeating sequence. So let's just repeat that one more time so you can see what we're doing here. So again, we're going to chain 3, skip 2 double crochet, single crochet in the chain space, chain 3, skip 2 double crochet, and double crochet in each of the next 8 stitches. So that is the sequence we're repeating across. And as you start to work this stitch pattern, you might begin to see that the lace looks kind of crumpled and crinkled up, but that is because it has not been blocked yet. So once this has been blocked, it will open up and smooth out and spread out very nicely, where that all of the chain spaces are distinct and clear, but the fabric will be smooth and flat. So as it starts to progress and it looks kind of crumpled, don't worry about that, because that will block out when we finish this. So I'm going to repeat that repeating sequence until 11 stitches remain in my row. Alright, I'm down to the last 11 stitches, so I'm going to chain 3, skip 2 double crochet, single crochet in the chain space, chain 3, skip 2 double crochet, and double crochet in the last 4 stitches. And by the way, when you're working into the top of the chainless starting double crochet from the previous row, it's just like working into the top of a regular double crochet. So that is the end of row 3, and we can kind of begin to see our stitch pattern taking place. This is the beginnings of the little flowers that we're making with our lace here. So now let's move on to row 4. We're going to again turn the work and work a chainless starting double crochet in the same stitch. And now we're going to double crochet in the next stitch. So for the repeating sequence of this row, we're going to chain 3, skip 2 double crochet, single crochet in the next chain space. We're going to chain 3 again, skip the next single crochet, and a single crochet in the next chain space. Then we're going to chain 3, skip 2 double crochet, and double crochet in the next 4 stitches. So again, we're going to chain 3, skip the next 2 double crochet, single crochet in the chain space. Then we're going to chain 3 again, skip the next single crochet, and single crochet in the next chain space. Then we're going to chain 3 again, skip the next 2 double crochet, and work a double crochet in the next 4 stitches. And now you can see we've added the center of our flower right here and 2 more petals on the sides. And of course, when we work the next row and we work into this middle chain space, it will pull up a little bit and open that center chain space a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat that sequence until I have 13 stitches left in my row. All right, I'm down to the last 13 stitches. So now I'm going to chain 3, again skip 2 double crochet, single crochet in the chain space, chain 3, skip the single crochet, and single crochet in the next chain space, chain 3, skip 2 double crochet, and double crochet in the last 2 stitches. And that is row 4. And again, this is going to look a little crumpled and kind of crinkly here, but when we block this and this opens up, you'll be able to see all of those petals very clearly. All right, so for row 5, we're going to turn the work and again begin with a chainless starting double crochet in the same stitch, like so. Then we're going to double crochet in the next stitch. And this is when we start bringing our flower back in. So we've kind of spread it out, now we're going to bring it back in. So the repeating sequence for this row is to work 2 double crochet in the next chain space. Then we're going to chain 3, skip the next single crochet, and single crochet in the next chain space. Then we're going to chain 3 again, skip the next single crochet, and work 2 double crochet in the next chain space. And then we will double crochet in the next 4 stitches. So again, to begin our repeating sequence a second time, we're going to work 2 double crochet in the next chain space, chain 3, skip the single crochet and single crochet in the next chain space. Then we're again going to chain 3, skip the single crochet and work 2 double crochet in the next chain space. And then we can double crochet in the next 4 stitches. So that is our repeat for row 5, and you can see our flower continuing to take shape. And I'm just going to repeat those instructions across until I have 13 stitches left. Alright, so I have 13 stitches left. I'm going to work 2 double crochet in the next chain space, chain 3, skip the single crochet and single crochet in the next chain space, chain 3 again, skip the single crochet and work 2 double crochet in the next chain space, and then I can double crochet in the last 2 stitches. And that is the end of row 5. So here's what our little flowers are looking like so far. Alright, now we're ready to work row 6. So let's go ahead and turn the work. And of course work a chainless starting double crochet in the same stitch to start our row. And then we're going to double crochet in the next 3 stitches. So our sequence for this row is to work 2 double crochet in the next chain space. Then we're going to chain 2, skip the next single crochet and work 2 double crochet in the next chain space. And then we can double crochet in the next 8 stitches. So again, we're going to work 2 double crochet in the next chain space, chain 2, skip the single crochet, and work 2 double crochet in the next chain space. And then we can double crochet in the next 8 stitches. Alright, so now I'm going to repeat that sequence across my row until I have 11 stitches left. Alright, so I'm down to the last 11 stitches. I'm going to work 2 double crochet in the chain space, chain 2, skip the single crochet, and work 2 double crochet in the next chain space, and then I can double crochet in the last 4 stitches. So that is the end of row 6, and we have completed our first row of flowers. So the following rows in the stitch pattern will add a second row of flowers offset from this row of flowers. Alright, so let's move on to row 7 to make that second row of flowers. So for row 7, of course, we're going to turn the work and work a chainless starting double crochet in the same stitch. And now we're going to double crochet in the next 5 stitches. Alright, so here is our repeating sequence for this row. We're going to work 2 double crochet in the next chain space. And then we're going to double crochet in the next 5 stitches. And then we're going to chain 3. We're going to skip 2 double crochet and then double crochet in the next 5 stitches. So let's do that one more time. I'm going to work 2 double crochet in the next chain space. Then I'm going to double crochet in the next 5 stitches. Now I'm going to chain 3, skip 2 double crochet, and double crochet in the next 5 stitches. So we're going to repeat that sequence until there are 8 stitches left in the row. Alright, I'm down to the last 8 stitches, so I'm going to work 2 double crochet in the next chain space. And then I'll just go ahead and double crochet in the last 6 stitches. Alright, so that is the end of row 7, and you can see how that we have kind of laid the foundation for the next row of flowers. This is the very first chain space opening here that's going to be this petal of the flower, the very bottom one. So now for row 8, we're going to turn the work, and this time we're going to begin with a chainless starting single crochet. So for a chainless starting single crochet, we're just going to stretch the loop on the hook slightly and work basically a regular single crochet in the same stitch the loop is coming from. And this again allows us to make a single crochet without a starting chain to begin the row. So I've worked that chainless starting single crochet in the same stitch. Now I'm going to chain 3, skip 2 double crochet, and double crochet in the next 8 stitches. Alright, so now we're ready for our repeating sequence for row 8, and that sequence is to chain 3, skip 2 double crochet, single crochet in the next chain space, then we're going to chain 3, skip 2 double crochet, and double crochet in the next 8 stitches. Let's do that one more time. We're going to chain 3, skip 2 double crochet, single crochet in the chain space, chain 3, skip 2 double crochet again, and work a double crochet in the next 8 stitches. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and repeat that sequence until I have 3 stitches left in my row. Alright, I've got 3 stitches left, so for the last bit of the row here, we're going to chain 3, skip 2 double crochet, and work a single crochet in the last stitch. So now if we lay our piece down, you can see how that we've added 2 more petals to our flower besides the one at the very bottom. So we're up to here on our second row of flowers. Alright, let's move on to row 9. So for row 9, we're going to turn the work. We're going to work a chainless starting double crochet in the same stitch the loop is coming from, which is the single crochet at the end of the row. There we go. And now we're going to chain 2 and single crochet in the chain space. So this is what we've got so far. Now we're going to chain 3, skip 2 double crochet, and double crochet in the next 4 stitches. Alright, so we're ready for our repeating sequence for this row. And for this row, it is to chain 3, skip 2 double crochet, single crochet in the next chain space, then we're going to chain 3 again, skip the next single crochet right here, and single crochet in the next chain space. Then we're going to chain 3 again, skip 2 double crochet, and double crochet in the next 4 stitches. Alright, let's do that one more time. We're going to chain 3, skip 2 double crochet, single crochet in the next chain space. Then we're going to chain 3 again, skip the next single crochet, and single crochet in the next chain space. Then we can chain 3 again, skip 2 double crochet, and double crochet in the next 4 stitches. So we're going to repeat that sequence across until 6 stitches are left in the row. Alright, so we've got 6 stitches left in the row. And to finish off this row, we're going to chain 3, skip 2 double crochet, single crochet in the next chain space. Then we're going to chain 2 and work a double crochet in the top of the single crochet from the row below. So that is the end of row 9, and you can see now we have the center row of petals here in our second row of flowers. Alright, so for row 10 we're going to turn the work, and we're going to begin this row again with a chainless starting single crochet, like so. Now we're going to chain 3, we're going to skip the next single crochet, and we're going to work 2 double crochet in the next chain space. Now here we go with our repeating sequence for the row. For the repeating sequence, we're going to double crochet in the next 4 stitches, and we're going to work 2 double crochet in the next chain space. Then we're going to chain 3, skip the next single crochet, and work a single crochet in the next chain space. Then we can chain 3 again, skip the next single crochet, and work 2 double crochet in the next chain space. So let's do that one more time. We're going to work a double crochet in the next 4 stitches. Now we're going to work 2 double crochet in the next chain space, chain 3, skip the next single crochet, and work a single crochet in the next chain space. Then we're going to chain 3 again, skip another single crochet, and work 2 double crochet in the next chain space. So we're going to repeat that sequence across until we have 11 stitches left in the row. Alright, so we're down to the last 11 stitches. We're going to double crochet in the next 4 stitches. Then we're going to work 2 double crochet in the next chain space, chain 3, and skip the next single crochet, and then we single crochet in the last double crochet of the row. There we go, that's the end of row 10. Now we only have 1 row left in our stitch pattern. So you can see we just need 1 more petal at the top here. So to do that, we're going to turn the work and work a chainless starting double crochet in the same stitch. And now we're going to work 2 double crochet in the next chain space. And our sequence for this row is to double crochet in the next 8 stitches. Then we're going to work 2 double crochet in the next chain space, chain 2, skip the next single crochet, and then we're going to work 2 double crochet in the next chain space. So one more time, we're going to double crochet in the next 8 stitches. We're going to work 2 double crochet in the next chain space, chain 2, and skip the next single crochet and work 2 double crochet in the next chain space. So there is the top petal of our flower. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat this across until I have 12 stitches left in the row. Alright, so I'm down to the last 12 stitches. I'm going to double crochet in the next 8 stitches. Then I'm going to work 2 double crochet in the next chain space and work a double crochet in the top of the single crochet from the row below. So that is row 11, and you can see how that we have finished our second row of flowers. So for the cropped version, you're going to repeat rows 2 to 11 one more time. For the full length version, you're going to repeat rows 2 to 11 two more times. Now, it is going to seem like even the full length version is a little bit short, but you have to keep in mind that this will open up and lengthen a little bit once we block it. And you'll also want to keep in mind that part of the reason why we don't have a ton of length below the sleeve is because the sleeve opening, the armhole of this tee, is pretty deep. It's not like your average fitted t-shirt. So that does account for some of the length of the total piece for both the cropped and the full length version. So I'm making the cropped version, so I'm only going to repeat rows 2 to 11 one more time. And then after that, whether you are making the cropped version or the full length, you're going to repeat rows 2 to 6 one more time. And then we will add some width to our piece to make the sleeves. But since I'm going to repeat row 2 again, that's the next step, I'm going to go ahead and just demonstrate a little bit of that real quickly because, like I said earlier, when you repeat row 2, we're going to be working across sections of stitches that have a chain space. So to begin row 2, we've turned the work and now we're going to work a chainless starting double crochet in the same stitch. And we're going to double crochet in the next 5 stitches. So our sequence for this row is to chain 3, skip 2, and double crochet in the next 12 stitches. However, now there is a chain space in the span of stitches that we're going to double crochet across, those 12 stitches. So when I reach that chain space, you can choose how you would like to work into it. You can choose to work into each individual chain stitch by inserting your hook into the stitch itself, the chain stitch itself. I prefer to just work to double crochet into that chain space, but you can do it either way. The point is that you have 2 double crochet total in that chain 2 gap right there, and you still will have 12 double crochet across that span of stitches. So when we chain 3, skip 2, and double crochet across the next 12 stitches, you just want to keep that in mind that we are now working across a span of stitches that does have a chain space in it, like so. So just keep that in mind as you continue to repeat the rows of this stitch pattern. This really only applies to row 2. But I'm going to go ahead and continue repeating the rows 2 to 11 as the pattern instructs for the cropped version because that's what I'm making. But like I said, if you're making the full length version, just follow the instructions for the full length version. So once I have repeated the correct rows for the version that I'm making, then we will go on to rows 12 and 13. Alright, so I have finished repeating the rows of the stitch pattern as many times as the pattern says for the version that I'm making. So now I'm ready to move on to rows 12 and 13, which add width to the sides of our panel for the sleeves. So for row 12, I'm going to go ahead and chain 30. Alright, there's 30 chain stitches, and I'm going to turn the work. So I'm going to skip the first 2 chains and double crochet in the 3rd chain from the hook, like so. And now we're going to double crochet in the next 12 chains. Alright, so there's my 12 double crochet after that very first one. And now we're going to work our repeating sequence for the row, which is to chain 3, skip 2, and double crochet in the next 12 stitches. So we're going to repeat that sequence all the way across. Alright, so I'm all the way across to the last stitch, and I will just work a double crochet in that last stitch. So that is the end of row 12, and you can see how we have just added 2 extra repeats to the width of our piece, and this is going to be the sleeve on one side. So now we just have to add the sleeve width on the other side, so we're going to do that with row 13. So for row 13, we're going to start by chaining 28. Alright, so now we're going to skip the first chain and single crochet in the second chain from the hook. And now we can chain 3, skip 2, and double crochet in the next 8 chains. Next, we're going to chain 3, skip 2 chains, single crochet in the next stitch. Then we can chain 3, skip 3 chains, and double crochet in the next 8 stitches. Alright, now we've got to chain 3 again, skip 2 chains, which are the only 2 chains left, single crochet in the next stitch. Then we can chain 3, skip 2, and double crochet in the next 8. Alright, so now we have finished the setup part of our row, and we can move on to the repeating sequence, which is to chain 3, skip 2 double crochet, single crochet in the next chain space, chain 3, skip 2 double crochet, and double crochet in the next 8 stitches. And we're going to repeat this sequence until there are 3 stitches left in the row. Alright, I'm down to the last 3 stitches, so I can now chain 3, skip 2, and single crochet in the last stitch. Now remember, we are not counting those chains that we skipped at the beginning of row 12 as a stitch, so we're not working into the top of the chains, only into the top of the last double crochet of the row. So that is the end of row 13, and you can see how that now we have extra width added on both sides of our piece. So we can now continue repeating our stitch pattern to add the remaining length that we need for finishing our body panel. So first you're going to repeat rows 9 through 11 one time, and then depending on which size you're making, you're also going to repeat rows 2 to 11 either 1 or 2 more times. So for the size that I'm making, I need to repeat rows 9 to 11 once, I need to repeat rows 2 to 11 once, and then I also need to repeat rows 2 to 6 one more time after that. So some sizes do not need to repeat rows 2 to 6 one more time, but just pay attention to the instructions for whichever size you're making and repeat the rows according to those instructions, and then we will be ready to finish up our body panel. Alright, so I have finished repeating the section for the armhole, and again, this is going to look very crumpled. This will open up quite a bit once it is blocked. So if it looks a little bit scrunched, don't worry about it. It's going to get blocked, and it's going to get more open and a little bit larger in its finished dimensions. So now all we have left to do is work the final row of our piece, and that is row 14. So for row 14, I've turned the work. I'm going to work a chainless starting double crochet in the same stitch. And now I'm going to double crochet in every stitch across. So what this means is we're going to work a double crochet into the top of every double crochet from the row below. And when we reach a chain space in the row below, you can either, since there's 2 chains in the chain space, you can either work a double crochet in each of those 2 chains, or you can work 2 double crochet into the chain space. That is a personal preference thing, it's up to you. I prefer to work 2 double crochet in the chain space, since we've been working into the chain space through the rest of our piece. But like I said, if you want to work a double crochet in each of those 2 chain stitches of the chain space, feel free to do that if you like. But we're just going to work a double crochet in every single stitch across the previous row, including the chain spaces. Alright, so I'm all the way to the end of my row, and that is the end of our piece. So now we can leave a tail. We want to leave a couple feet of yarn tail to seam our piece with. And so now we can tie off. So The next step, since we've got one piece finished, is to make a second piece exactly like this one. One of these will be for the front and one will be for the back. So you'll want to make two of this panel, this body panel, and then we'll be ready to move on to the blocking. Alright, so I've got both of my pieces finished, and the next step is to block them. So I've already mentioned blocking a couple times in this video because blocking is so important for lace. And as you can see, my pieces still look kind of scrunched, crumpled, and the lace is not very consistently defined. So what we're going to do is block both of our pieces, which will help open up the fabric and let the fabric relax so that you can see all of that beautiful lace, but also so that it will have more drape to it. So if you're not familiar with blocking, I have a video on that, which I will link down below in the video description. But you'll want to choose the blocking method that is best suited for whatever fiber content your yarn is. So I'm using a natural fiber or animal fiber yarn. It is mainly superwash wool. So I'm going to wet block my pieces, which is when you put them in water, you get them fully saturated with water, squeeze out the excess gently, and then lay them out to the finished measurements on blocking mats and pin them down and allow them to dry. If you are using an acrylic yarn, then you could steam block. That could also work with cotton if you're using cotton. But for the yarn that I'm using, I'm going to wet block both of my pieces. And then once they are dry, I will go ahead and unpin them, and I'll show you what the fabric and the lace look like after they've been blocked. And then after the blocking, we'll be ready to assemble our tee. But definitely do not skip this step. The blocking is very important for this project, especially because it is lace. Alright, so both of my panels are blocked, and you can see they now have so much more drape to them, and that lace has really opened up, and you can see the designs in it very clearly. So the final step in making our tee is to sew the front and back panels together. So I have the two panels laying on top of each other, and this one on the back is facing with the right side down. I should mention here that both sides could be the right side. It doesn't really matter. You can pick which side you want to be the right side. But this one is facing right side down, and this one is facing right side up on top of it. So I'm going to go ahead and line up these two panels so that the edges are all matching. So what we're going to do to sew these together is we're going to sew a seam on both sides to join the sides and the underarm seam here. And then we're going to take the extra yarn tails on the top and sew the shoulder seams up here. So we're going to start with the side seams. I'm going to do this one first. And of course the first step is to unwind the yarn tail that we've been saving here for our seam. And I'm going to grab one of my thinnest yarn needles. I like these bent tip ones, but I'm going to grab the thinnest one that I have because we're dealing with fairly thin yarn. And then I'm going to thread this yarn tail through my yarn needle. And we're going to use it to stitch up the side seam and the underarm seam. And you'll also notice that on each side, even though the bottom corners are lined up, the underarm seam is just slightly out of alignment here because when we did the rows that add width for the sleeve, rows 12 and 13, the piece that's underneath right now is the one that has row 12 beginning the sleeve here, and this piece has row 13 beginning the sleeve on this side. And that's just because we've made two pieces exactly the same and flipped one of them over. But we're just going to fix that in the seam by making them line up because the difference there is very small. It's only about just over 1/4 of an inch. So we don't really have to worry about pulling anything by making those pieces line up. So I'm just going to kind of open this up here so that we can see what's going on. And because my yarn tail is at this corner right here, I'm going to go ahead and take a stitch through the opposite corner on the other piece. And we are just going to whip stitch this seam. So what I'm going to do is insert my needle going down into the edge of the fabric on the one side and then make it come up through the edge of the fabric on the other side. And the goal here is just to keep the rows lined up. So for example, I have just stitched together the ends of the very first row, and I want to make sure that when I work into the second row, I'm also inserting my needle into the same place on each side. So I'm inserting my needle at the base of the double crochet on each edge here, and then on the next stitch I will do it a little further up, but still lined up with the double crochet on the other edge, so that we are making a consistent seam that will have all of the ends of the rows lining up. So you can see how our seam is looking so far, and it is blending in pretty nicely. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to continue to stitch this seam up to the underarm here, and then we will continue stitching it across here to the very edge. Alright, so I've made it up to where the underarm section is joined here. So now what we're going to do is we're kind of going to bend these pieces to fit together. And so sometimes that may mean taking one stitch on one side where you would put two on the other side. So like I'm going to come over here, grab one stitch, and then go through this side, and then I will come back in the same spot on the one side and go a little further on the other side. So what we're doing is we're just kind of easing these two pieces together, and although it does pull just a little bit on the one side, this will still look very smooth and consistent once the seam is finished. And because it's not a big gap in the two different edges, it's not going to take very much to get them to line up. Alright, so now we can stitch along these two foundation chain edges here. And what I like to do is go into the chain stitches on both sides and just pick up the foundation chain from the stitch on one edge and the chain from the stitch on the other edge. And I'm just going to continue joining these two edges together until I reach the edge of my pieces here, and then we're going to stop. Alright, so we are almost to the very edge here, and we're going to take one final stitch through those two corners to finish it off. And then to tie off our seam, we're going to take another stitch in the same exact place again and wrap the yarn around the needle, pull the needle through to make a knot. So that is our seam, and the end is now secure. So you can see how that we have joined these two front and back panels together. And what we're going to do to finish this off, of course, is to weave in the yarn tail, which you can do by weaving it into the seam. But for the moment, I'm going to leave the tail and I'll weave it in later, and I'm going to show you real quick how to do the shoulder seam. So for the shoulder seam, we're going to be using the length of yarn tail that is attached at the top corner of our piece. And we're going to be joining these two edges together, stopping when we reach a certain point. Alright, so for this seam, what we're going to do is begin stitching at the corner, joining these two edges together, and we're going to stop when our seam is a certain length, depending on which size you're making. So for the size that I'm making, I need to stop joining these edges together when my seam is 8.5 inches long. So I'm going to take this yarn tail and go ahead and start whip stitching these two edges together, of course starting with the corner. That very first corner stitch is important because it lines up that edge and makes it look smooth. So I like to go through that corner twice. And then we're just going to be stitching through the tops of the stitches, joining one from each side until our seam is the right length. All right, so I have made my seam 8.5 inches long. I've stopped when my seam measures 8.5 inches from one end to the other, and I have tied off with a knot. So now all I have left to do is weave in this tail on this seam. So what we're going to do for the other side of our T is we're going to repeat these same two seams, the shoulder seam and the side seam, and that will finish up the other side of our T, and then we can just weave in the ends and our T will be finished.